In the last 6 months, I've paid off $15,000 in debt. I've traveled to Spain, the Oregon coast, and visited family multiple times. We purchased mostly organic groceries. We've saved hundreds of dollars. And I have no shortage of social interactions, going out to dinner and coffees with friends. I make about $76,000 a year, and I was able to accomplish all of this because of philosophies that I have around money. And in this series, I'm going to teach you how I think about money and how it affects different aspects of my life. And I think I have a unique perspective for those of you that make a decent salary and are young and interested in this topic. Basically, my approach is to be realistic and goal-oriented, and that has helped me accomplish so many financial goals. In this series, I'll be sharing everything that I know and think about money, including how to spend, save, plan, budget, credit card points, splitting with a significant other, or even roommates. So if you're ready to take your finances to the next level and stop feeling out of control and restricted by your budget, go ahead and subscribe because you won't want to miss out. As always, I'll be sharing my perspective, and finances are personal, so it's up to you to make your own decisions. In today's video, I'm going to go over how I go about setting up and actually sticking to my budget to reach all my financial goals. First and foremost, a budget is simply a money plan. It's knowing your income and then planning for your expenses. My rich friends have budgets, and my friends that struggle with their money do not. The purpose of knowing and understanding your income and expenses is so that you can allocate according to your real priorities. This means living in a meaningful way. Honestly, having the mindset that your budget is restrictive is self-limiting and will never lead to any success. Instead, frame your budget as a money plan that allows you to afford your necessities and help you reach your goals and allocate money towards your priorities. Knowing and having control over where your money is going helps you live a life of intention. And that helps you build wealth both in monetary values and also the quality of life that you have. Spending in alignment with your goals is what will actually allow you to achieve them. So your budget is not this loose concept that's a dream or an idea or an ideal way of spending. It's a tool that you can use to help guide you to your financial goals. So before you even think about numbers, it's time to think about what you want your life to look like. And you do this by dreaming. Do you want to have all the time in the world? Maybe pay off your debt, set aside money for a down payment. You want to travel more freely. You want to spend more money on friends. You want to be more generous. Or maybe you just want to retire on time or even early. These are all dreams, and it's a great place to start because you know what you want your life to look like. The next step is to turn those dreams into goals. If you've made it this far in life and haven't heard of a SMART goal, let me enlighten you. Your goals should be specific. They should be measurable. They should be achievable. They should be relevant, and they should be timely. My dream is to be financially free and in control of my money. So I identified what that actually looked like for me, and I set the following goals. I will pay off my student loans by February 25th, 2029. That's when I turn 30. I'll invest enough monthly to have $2 million when I turn 65. And this number isn't arbitrary. It is about what I need to live off of $10,000 a month at 65. And I'll take one international trip per year. Another term for your goals is your money priorities. Maybe a goal is to take one domestic trip every quarter. Maybe a goal is to have a $500 shopping spree every month. That's a perfectly acceptable goal, as long as you know that it's what you want to do and you spend your money accordingly. Again, there's no moral value to any of these goals. As long as you're intentional about what you want your life to look like and are able to afford it, you can spend your money however you want. But once you set your money priorities or your goals, you have to know that you're not going to achieve them if you don't actually prioritize or work towards them. You don't just get to achieve goals by saying, hey, this is a goal I have. So now that you're on board with the concept of having a plan, you have to have a place to keep this plan, because unfortunately, whether or not you're a numbers person, this is a numbers thing. So you need to find a system that you are actually going to use and refer back to. There's kind of two broad categories here. You can go digital or you can go physical. Digital would look like maybe a spreadsheet, an app, or a software. There are lots available. Physical would be a ledger or a book or even cash stuffing. If you want to use my budget, it is linked below, and my followers, of course, get a percentage off, making it only a few bucks to get started. So that's kind of the concept of what a budget is, but let's talk about how to actually manage your finances. If you're anything like me, I know you're eager to start inputting numbers, but let's talk about the regular management of your finances first. No matter what your goals are, once you set them, it's actually a pretty repetitive process to reach them. The spot where I'm most hands-on with my finances is with tracking my expenses. So I think it's important to talk about tracking expenses prior to actually talking about setting up a regular reoccurring budget. Before you set a single budget category, it's important to track your expenses over the last, I recommend, 90-day period. This gives you a good picture of how you're spending and can allow you to feel something about that spending. Nowadays, most of our purchases are digitized, so you can just go through the last 90 days of your expenses in your debit card or credit card and just categorize them. But it's a non-negotiable to track your expenses before you even start to situate a budget. This is because it's important to understand where your money is going and how you feel about it. Because knowing how you feel about where your money is going allows you to spend intentionally. This is a theme that you will gather with my perspective on money. Being super intentional about where you spend your money and spending alignment with things that make you happy is how you'll actually stick to a budget and stick to your financial goals. Once you've tracked your first bout of expenses, we have to know how much income we have. Understanding your income is a huge part of budgeting. If you make a regular income where your paychecks are relatively similar from paycheck to paycheck, then you can make a plan based on your income and allocate money accordingly. If your income is variable, think it's important to budget based on your expenses, and knowing what your general expenses are allows you to know what the minimum you have to make every single month is, and then on months that you make more than that minimum amount, you can set aside a certain amount to cover for the months that you make less. And then it's likely that you'll have unexpected income. This could be anything from a tax return, extra side hustle money, gifts, anything like that. I think the most helpful thing to do with extra income is have a set plan for how you're gonna spend that income. For me, I put 75% towards my money priority number one, which is paying off debt. 20% goes to investing no matter what, and 5% is mine to spend on whatever I want. So if I earn $100 in extra income, $75 would go to my debt, $20 would go to an investment, and I'd get $5 to buy a latte with. Okay, let's talk about actually allocating your money. And don't worry, I won't worry or bore you with different percentages that you should be spending on X, Y, or Z. In my opinion, your finances are healthy if you can afford your necessary expenses and have enough money to live reasonably in alignment with your quality of life. This means you have to be realistic. Obviously, if you make $70,000 a year, your quality of life is not going to be flying on private jets unless you have access to things that I do not. And also, living your quality of life doesn't necessarily mean you will always have money to spend on whatever you want. It just means that there is enough money to go around to make progress towards these goals. So yeah, I'll never say you should only spend $300 a month on groceries because A, I don't do that, and us valuing different things is not a problem. You're bright, you're already here, so that means you can figure this out. So yeah, let's get ahead into actually allocating your expenses. First, there are things that you have to spend money on to survive. These are things like housing, transportation, food, minimum payments on debt. Anything left over after covering your necessary expenses is your disposable income. I hate the word disposable because I feel like the connotation implies it's money that you can just throw away. And how many times do I have to say that money is what allows you to live your dream life? It should be spent intentionally. So your disposable income should be spent in alignment with your goals. Allocating money is where people start to feel like their budget is restrictive and they can't do everything. It's realistic that you probably have a limited disposable income. It's important to understand that when you prioritize one thing, another thing has to be deprioritized. If your goal is to retire in 10 years, that means you're going to be investing very aggressively, and you might not be able to buy a new car or eat out at the fancy restaurant every single week. The other way around is if you really want to have a bubbly, vibing social life, then you're probably not going to be able to buy all the new gear from REI. Of course, as your income grows, you'll be able to put more money to different pockets of priorities, but one way that I limit feeling restricted is making sure that I have a certain amount of money that I can spend guilt-free every single month on things that aren't necessarily my money priorities. Personally, I give myself $200, and this allows me to grab a coffee pretty frequently or a couple dinners out with friends, and this is a good amount of money for me, but you might have a different lifestyle and have to allocate a different amount of money. But quite honestly, having specific budget categories and targets that I have to hit every single month, and then having this certain amount of money that I can spend however the heck I want, allows me to not feel guilty when I do those things, and it helps me not feel restricted really at all. There are certain categories that are maybe between necessary expenses but above disposable income. For example, it's important to have an emergency fund because life comes at you fast. And you do want to retire someday, so you can't just not invest at all. The earlier you start, the easier it'll be. I kind of consider these are foundational expenses, and it's important to build your foundation first. Are you investing enough to retire when you want to, or as close to that amount as possible at this time? For me, this means maxing out my Roth IRA at a minimum and investing up to my 401k match. 2, do you have a good enough emergency savings? Most people will say 3 to 6 months, but I think that's overwhelming and honestly not realistic. That amount takes years to save up. So let's start with this. Could you afford a plane ticket home tomorrow if you needed to? Then can you afford to make a major repair on a car or maybe an appliance? This is about $1,000 to $2,000. After that, can you afford your health insurance max out of pocket? Mine is $9,000. Then it's, can you afford to live any amount of time that you deem reasonable on your income? 6 months is good because that's usually a very comfortable bucket. If you don't have these things established, consider prioritizing them before making a major purchase. But also it's important to know that enough is enough. If you decide that you only need 3 months of savings, then 3 months of savings is all you need, and once you've saved that amount, you're done. Generally speaking, I think we have lost the art of building a foundation before spending on luxury, because luxury is honestly quite achievable for us. And I am absolutely not against good experiences, which is why I do allow myself to spend on luxury and convenience occasionally. But I think it's important to set yourself up for success first. Quite honestly, you cannot afford a $50,000 car if an unexpected expense would send you into debt. If you want $100 yoga pants, you don't just get to pull it from your savings account, you get to save up for 5 months first. Instant gratification is so addicting, but it can only hurt you in the long run. So when you get paid, pay yourself first. The order, in my opinion, is necessities, priorities in your foundation, and then disposable income. So before I let you go, I want to make sure we're on the same page. You get to decide your quality of life and what being rich means to you. To make this plan, you have to have specific goals that you develop from your dreams. Then it's important to understand your income, understand how you're currently spending money, and then adjust your spending according to the quality of life you want to have. When you allocate your money, the first thing is your necessities, the second thing is your foundation and priorities, and then the third is your disposable income. Your disposable income can be used to help you achieve your goals a little bit faster, but it can also be used to help you have an amazing quality of life, and you shouldn't feel guilty about that. And in order to not feel guilty about that, you have to spend on the first two things. Those are just my thoughts. YouTube thinks you're gonna like this video, so you should check it out and see if the algorithm's right. As always, drop any questions you have down below, and I will see you in the next one.